Welcome back to another episode of Hot Take, where we look at some of the biggest takes and some of the most interesting takes across social media in relation to Premier League and Champions League football. Of course, we want to get your views and opinions. Can't wait to read your comments back. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. But Mark, how are you, mate?
Good. Nice for Manchester United to get a win. Interesting time in the Man United fan base. I've just hot off the heels of the United Stand morning show, and you know it's the same old world again. You know, you're being called toxic because of saying it's only Wolves and still got massive concerns. But that's all good. It's all about the debate, and I think some people just want to take control of. We live in a world of absolutes, don't we? And people just want it to be everything's great or everything's crap, and actually, I'm just of an opinion that, look, it's always good when Man United win. And if you're in a relegation battle, you've got to beat Wolves. So, beating Wolves has to happen regardless of what our season's going to be. Move on to the next one. Still have massive concerns, but, a win is a win.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was very happy with our second half yesterday, but very disappointed with the first half. I'm also not going to get carried away with it. I was saying to my chat last night on our match reaction show that, if we went and beat Bournemouth and got a good result against Villa and went and beat Newcastle and then beat Wolves again, and we're suddenly sitting third in the league, then maybe I start to reassess how I feel right now.
Yeah.
But I did celebrate the goals. What was very nice last night, and when it got to 4-1, I was a little annoyed we didn't go for 5 or 6. But actually, on reflection, it was really nice to just see out the last 15 minutes of a game, feeling no pressure. I don't remember the last time I felt like that. So it was nice, but I keep my feet on the ground.
Also, as well, I said exactly the same. I said, look, we've got 3 interesting games: Bournemouth, Newcastle, Villa in between. 2 home games, 3 good Premier League sides. If we come out of those 3 games with, let's say, 7 points, then after that Newcastle game on Boxing Day night, I'll be going, right, now we're talking. Let's see where we go from here. But there's too many people who shift up after every game. Like, I can see people in my chat after last night going, "I'll stop being so negative." But on Thursday night, I've seen their chat, them going, "I think Amram needs to go." And you're like, you're shifting up. They're shifting up too quick. And if there's one sport you cannot shift up game to game, it's football. Like, there's too many games. There's too many permutations. And you're better off maybe doing it on a monthly basis, maybe on a monthly basis. That's not how it works in practice. But no, for me, there are parameters I'm looking for. I want to see a vision in relation to the team he picks, and I'm not happy with certain players that he picks. I want to see performance, and I've not been happy with the way we're playing football. And I want to see results. And at the moment, results, he keeps just doing enough to be in a position where you go, look, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's where I am.
No, I understand that. And I'm in a very similar space. But I did want to say one thing to you and say you were right about something massively. And it was quite a big take that you made on this show in the summer, which is that a lot of fans will forget about Ineos, about the Glazers, about the problems in the squad as soon as the games start. I had debates this week with Man United fans who think our squad is on par with everybody else in the league, barring Liverpool. And that, for me, is what happens when you get too hyper-focused on Amram in or Amram out. You start to forget about the whole picture. That's something I'm just trying my best not to do. I've criticized starting lineups recently. Even last night, I get Lissandro coming on. You're bringing him back to full fitness. Heaven didn't need to come off for Euro. Mainoo coming on was correct, but that was the perfect opportunity to give Shea Lacey an opportunity. You can just equally. I don't blame Amram for a lot of the problems in the first half, barring the defensive setup. We should have scored 2 or 3 goals. The players fluffed their lines. I'll criticize them for it. I think that's the one element at the moment in the United fan base that I find tiring, is a player misses 2 or 3 easy chances. You criticize them and people go, nah, it's just the system that made him miss. It's like, no, it isn't. We all understand football more than that. That's the polarizing element I don't like.
Just in relation to the chat, yes, Terry is ill. So I realise I've probably got to try and talk a little bit more than normal, and we'll try and get through it as quick as we can because he needs to go to bed. So yeah, he's definitely not well. But look, he's like Bruno Fernandes. He doesn't miss a show. No. So there you go. And like Bruno, he's probably going to come up with a couple of bangers. So there you go.
I hope so. I hope so. Let's start with a banger though from last night. This is Jamie Carragher talking about Mohamed Salah.
It's a disgrace what he did after the game. Some people have painted it as an emotional outburst. I don't think it was. I think whenever Mo Salah stops in a mix zone, which he's done 4 times in 8 years at Liverpool, it's choreographed with him and his agent to cause maximum damage and strengthen his own position. He did that 12 months ago, and I called him out on this show about it. And he played on the heartstrings of Liverpool supporters. Liverpool were top of the league. He'd scored the winning goal at Southampton. That was the time to come out and put pressure on the Liverpool ownership. So if the rest of the season you have banners in the crowd, give Mo his dough. He's chose this weekend to do this now. And he's waited, I think, for a bad result with Liverpool. You can see the last-minute goal. Liverpool supporters, managers, the manager, everyone involved in the club feels like they're in the gutter at the moment. And he's chose that time to go for the manager and maybe try and get him sacked. That's the way I felt about it. The one line that stands out for me is thrown under the bus. He's tried to throw the club under the bus twice in the last 12 months with the situations that I've just mentioned. Now, going after the owners initially, these are owners who've been paying him hundreds of thousands of pounds for 6 years. He's complained a year ago because they haven't given him a contract at the age of 32. More than entitled to do that. With the manager right now, he should be doing as much as he can to help the club get out the worst run of results they've had since the 1950s. I wouldn't put Salah alongside them, but he's very close for what he's done for Liverpool, so a legendary figure. And all those players, I think, get a privilege. Exactly the same one Mo Salah gets at Liverpool. He doesn't have to defend. He doesn't have to chase back. So that's the privilege he has with Liverpool. But when we're talking about throwing people under the bus, he's threw the Liverpool right back under the bus for 8 years. Can you imagine playing behind him for 8 years? But we accept it because he's a superstar and he scores 250 goals and he's given me, as a Liverpool supporter, some of the greatest nights of my life watching him and what he's done. The success of a football club is down to them. Now, I have no problem with that because I think that drives them on to score more goals and get more success, and it benefits Liverpool. It then becomes a problem when you're in a situation like this. And when Mo Salah's talking about how many goals he scored, I've got more goals than anyone in the Premier League, what I did last season, he's always speaking about himself. One thing I just want to sort of remind Mo Salah, maybe his agent, is that before he come to Liverpool, Mo Salah was known as the guy who failed at Chelsea. That's just a fact. He never won a major trophy before he came to Liverpool. He's also the greatest player his country have ever had in Egypt. Egypt, in the African Cup of Nations, are the most successful nation. He's going there in a couple of weeks. Mo Salah's never won the AFCON. That is not me trying to put Mo Salah down as a player. I've just said he's one of the best players in the world in the last 8 years. Very few better. But what it tells Mo Salah and his agent is, it's not about an individual. You weren't a big star before you come to Liverpool. You haven't really won anything with Egypt anyway. And all that's telling you is, no matter how good a player you are, you need help from your teammates, your manager, and fans. And I think that's really important that he remembers that.
Big words there from Jamie Carragher. What was your view on kind of what he said there? Obviously called out the element of speaking publicly, but then has kind of gone at him, and you weren't a star before you came here, you've won nothing with your country. Really going at, I mean, for me, kind of going at his career and legacy, talking about throwing Trent under the bus for 8 years. What do you make of those comments from Jamie?
Well, look, you know, I'd love to have been having that chat with him because I wouldn't have let him speak for that long, and I would have jumped in like I wanted to jump in and say, but the thing is, mate, you just don't like him. And he'll go, oh, I do. No. I'd say, no, you don't. Like, it's very obvious you don't like him. Last season, you were, you know, sort of badgering him into signing a new contract, criticising him. Trent didn't sign the contract. You didn't really go in on him that much. You know, what's the difference? Salah's a better player than Trent. He's a bigger legend. So I think a little bit like Ricky on the United stand with Bruno. He just doesn't like him. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with disliking a player. And it could be because of their attitude, the way they conduct themselves. There could be ultimate. So nothing wrong with Carragher not liking Salah. But to me, I think it's very clear he doesn't really have a lot of time for Salah. And that's based on other things. So I think his reaction there was, I don't think that was premeditated by Salah. I really don't. I think it was bang out of order. And I've said that. I think it was bang out of order, but I don't think it was premeditated. I don't think he was waiting for a 3-3 game against Leeds where they concede late to come out and try and sack the manager. I think he was ultimately a bit like Ronaldo when he stormed down the line. Are we meant to criticize these players because they're egotistical and they're self-centered? I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't think Cristiano Ronaldo needs to thank, Delo and everybody else he plays with for his own career. To be the best, you've got to be a big head. You have to be. So Salah's a bit of a big head. What a surprise. We get Mo Salah in the Premier League over all these years. He's a bit of a big head. But I think what happened at the weekend is Salah was humiliated in his head because he didn't get to come on in a game like that against Leeds. And I think he's just off the cuff decided, right, I'm not having this. I don't think it was premeditated. It was bang out of order, though. And as I said yesterday, I think, Carragher there is just use it as an opportunity to, stop. I mean, I don't get the relevancy of Egypt. So Liverpool win with Salah as a team, but he's then saying for Egypt, he should be winning it on his own. I don't know. I mean, surely Egypt would win it as a team with him anyway. So I don't really get what the point of that is. But fundamentally, my feeling is Mo Salah is a legend of the Premier League. He's a legend of Liverpool. And in 5 years' time, when he's not a Liverpool player and he comes back, he should be being applauded by that crowd. So Liverpool Football Club, Mo Salah and Arne Slot have a responsibility to get in a room and resolve this in a situation whereby it doesn't end in a bad way. Because if he's going to go to Qatar in January, maybe that's what Liverpool want. Mo Salah sort of hinted at that. So they need to get in a room, extinguish this for that great football club that Liverpool is, and find a way where everybody just agrees to disagree, but does it in a respectful way so that legacies aren't ruined. Because we saw what happened with Trent, and I don't necessarily disagree with the way the Liverpool fans reacted to that. But Mo Salah is right at the end of his career. He's not going to Real Madrid. He's not going to Barcelona. He's given his best years to that football club. And it's, he's obviously frustrated with how it's ending up, but he's not the player he was anyway. So, yeah, I feel Carragher used that as an opportunity to vent for too long about what his issues with Mo Salah are bigger than Saturday night, when actually, I think as a legend himself, he should be thinking, look, how do we solve this? Put aside his personal feelings and go, look, he's out of order, but let's rescue this situation.
Yeah, I hear that completely. I think what was interesting from Sky is I watched it live, so they couldn't cut it. But every social media post they've put out on all their platforms of that speech, they've cut this bit out.
Tonight, Mo Salah said it himself, didn't he, after the game? He said, Jamie Carragher will go for me again and again.
Have I ever criticised Mo Salah on the pitch?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, you said his legs had gone.
No.
Have Sky put that out themselves?
So that was somebody recording it live, but they've cut now, like that's that clip I played on TikTok, their Insta, their X accounts.
Got rid of it.
They've cut that part out. And that for me shows them.
Carragher's probably said, I'm not being, yeah.
Well, that's what you get away with a lot with live TV because you can say it, and it's harder now because people can screen record it. But if they don't repost it, it's gone because it was live, right? So that's the bit for me where I agree with you. I think Carragher does have an issue. I have a conspiracy theory, and I think I think this about some of our ex-legends as well. I think they often worry about their own status, and I think they sometimes go in a little bit harder than they need to. But I feel like Jamie, I felt it for a long time, is trying to protect Steven Gerrard. I really do think he's trying to protect. He's the biggest Premier League star, where for me, Salah is above him. He makes the point that you were a Chelsea flop before you came here. Well, actually, I don't think he was given a real chance at Chelsea. But equally, Liverpool hadn't won the league for 30 years before Mo Salah arrived, along with other people. And I didn't see the need to attack him in that way. He could have kept it. I agree that he shouldn't have spoken out publicly. But the way he's kind of gone after him, the line that got me, now Mo Salah's wrong for talking like he carried the team to a league title last year. I don't like this one-man team talk, never have done. But equally, the idea that Mo Salah threw Trent under the bus defensively for 8 years. No, Trent was just a bad fucking defender at the end of the day. And Mo Salah, there's so many clips have been put out today of Mo Salah helping out defensively over the years. I know
that right back thing was ridiculous. To say that it's got nothing to do with what he said after Leeds. To say that he's, left the right back for 8 years. I mean, what's he done in 8 years for Liverpool? I mean, Ronaldo didn't track back. I've never heard anybody say, "Ooh, yeah, Ronaldo won the Ballon d'Or at Man United, but fucking hell, he was abusing his left back by not tracking back." I mean,
no, I agree. And there was also a part which Sky have also now cut, where he goes on about how earlier on in the season, there was a couple of times he could have squared the ball to Wirtz. Wirtz would have scored, and it would have helped Wirtz start his career better, and maybe he'd be in a better place. And Mo Salah shouldn't have thought about scoring himself and should have squared it. And what I find very interesting, but in the same breath, he says Mo Salah's on all this money, being paid the most amount of money the club's ever given anybody, and needs to also deliver. So what do you want him to do, Jamie? Score the goal with the money what dictates, or square the ball to a new player? The problem is, because it was a personal attack, whenever you get emotional and your attacks on somebody are personal, you're always going to end up tripping yourself up every single time, unless you admit this is a personal attack. And I thought there were elements I agree with, but then I think he's taken some really big cheap shots on the biggest football show of the week with the biggest platform and money behind him. And I don't see how that's going to help his Liverpool that he feels has been thrown under the bus as a legend. I don't see how it helps Liverpool. In terms of what they should do, I'm going to play this from a fan, actually, about him, but I'd love to get your opinion on what they should do moving forward.
Like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, looks like... It's probably a duck. So Arsenal finished second.
Right, wrong clip. This was
Salah a duck.
Sorry, this was Scholesy talking about it. Sorry.
He needs to grow up, doesn't he? He's acting like a baby. He's been left out. He's been one of the best players, and he is an unbelievable player. But he's not playing well enough to get in the team. He's aired it publicly, which is wrong. If you've got a problem with the manager, go and see your manager. He's trying to force his exit out of the club now.
I would drag Mo Salah in and I'd say to him, "You're never playing for me again. So you get your arsehole agents to go and sort out with our board and get out of this club for you, because you're not playing for me ever again." And whether that's right or wrong, he has to do that as a leader. And it's a bit like when, a big player, you talk about Yapstam, you talk about Roy Keane, you talk about David Beckham, big superstar players. And Sir Alex Ferguson moved them on, and that's because you have to be the leader of the football club when you're a manager. Slot doesn't do that now. He's never going to have the respect, or the board won't be looking down at him and going, "You're our man." They can't. They can't. And it might be the worst thing or wrong thing to do, but he has to go there and go, "Now I'm in charge, not you."
That's why I want Nicky Butt involved at Man United. I don't know why we let him go. I think he's absolutely spot on, and I think that, look, it's not about I think the legacy of Salah needs to be protected 100%. It's such a shame to flush it down the toilet. But ultimately, he has gone out and done something off the cuff, which probably breaches his contract, if we're being honest, and, throws the whole club under the bus. And he shouldn't have done it. Now, if he's not apologetic, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't, there can't be a way back. But also, Nicky's right in the sense that they've got a game against Brighton at the weekend, and then it's the AFCON. If you can find a way, they found a way to not get him involved in Inter tonight. If you can find a way to not get him involved in Brighton, and I think they will, then basically you've got that month to move him on. And yeah, I mean, look, as a manager, I agree. I think if you're going to be that guy, you can't have a player that's going to go rogue. And also, he's not been very good this season, Terry. I've defended Salah. Year after year, people keep saying he's falling off, and he'll still get 20 Premier League goals. He's not going to do that this season. He has literally fell off. So I think that there needs to be an amicable way of doing it. I mean, look, John Terry said he agrees that Mo Salah has been scapegoated a bit. And I agree with that. I think he has been scapegoated a bit. Like, Van Dijk's shite this season, and he's the captain. He's turning his back on the ball. He's giving it away. Van Dijk's playing shit. But Van Dijk's not coming out and going, "Oh, the club have thrown me under the bus." Salah's mistake is that interview. Is he being scapegoated? Look, he's not the only problem at that team, but he's the best player. And he should be fully aware that you're going to get that as the best player. It's, in a way, it's a compliment. His big mistake is that interview. And I do not for 1 minute think it was premeditated, because I think the damage it's done him, why would you do it?
Yeah, have you seen the reverse angle of it, where the press officer, of Liverpool's, it's a thing.
What do you do? What can you do?
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, my mindset is like grab him and pull him away, but there's no way you can do that. Like, you'll be in absolute hot water. But I agree with Butty as well. To be fair with you, I don't even think it's a hot take. I think it's absolutely spot on. This is where United have gone wrong over the years. There are players that weren't good for how we were trying to play football. Some of them were big stars in the game, legends of the club. And we as fans, actually, were very bad, we would side with the players because we didn't believe in the manager. And I've called this out for many, 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 many years, that it's not about protecting Jose or Ollie or Ten Hag or Amrim. It's the position they hold. You can't Man United have weakened. The Glazers weakened the position of manager at our club to a point where I still don't think it's fully respected. I still don't think players give it their all every single game, every single day of the week. Now, I think some do. I think some don't. But it's been a cultural issue. And this is where Liverpool have got to be really careful they don't set a precedent with a very, very slippery slope. Because if Mo Salah now gets to come back in without a public apology, without holding his hands up and saying, I was wrong for doing this, then you create a rod for your own back. More players will do this. The manager will lose the respect of that dressing room. And if FSG, Hughes and Edwards walk into that dressing room today, after the game tonight, and say, listen, Salah's going to go, we're back in slot. If any of you have got a problem with that, you're gone as well. They have to make that stance, because otherwise the players will realize they rule the roost. And human beings have got a horrible habit of pulling on that. They really, really do. So Liverpool got to be very, very careful here. Nicky Butt is absolutely spot on. Apologise to who exactly? The manager, his teammates, his fans. That's who he should apologise to. There's a way of doing things professionally, Twisted Bubba, and there's a way of doing things underhand. Have private conversations. This is something that shouldn't be made public. And in fairness to Slot, I watched his interview yesterday. He handled it a lot better than Ten Hag did when talking about Sancho. Does that make sense? It's the element of he's actually responded with some grace. So that's how it's got to be done. And if Mo Salah's not willing to do that, then yes, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but nobody's bigger than the club. The club has got to be in control. That's just my view. A few super chats here. This from Patrick. He says Salah's agent should have told him to say nothing can bide his time. Slots is on thin ice. Good chance he gets sacked, and the next guy will have you in because they have to. He has been ill-advised. Do you think he's been badly advised, or do you think he's done it emotionally off the cuff?
I think he has done it off the cuff. I mean, I know Carragher's. I mean, this is what I mean. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I haven't got a problem with Carragher disliking Salah, but it's just very obvious he does. And if he doesn't like Salah, it's a very weird, contradictory way that he speaks about other players. So I think he has got a problem with Salah, and I think Salah's got a problem with him. And these are competitive sports people. So look, that whatever. But I can't see why you'd premeditate that with your agent to wait for an opportunity to do that, because you're basically. I mean, look, we all want legacy. And why would you damage your legacy 2 weeks out from the AFCON when, even if you are on the bench for Inter and Brighton, you might get a few minutes and a chance to, win your place back, and then you can go in January anyway. It's definitely stinks of a momentary moment of, frustration.
Apologise to the fans. The fans back Salah, pal. Not all of them do. And I haven't.
But it shouldn't be about that anyway. I mean, maybe some people do back Salah, and we're not Liverpool fans. And I said the same about Trent. This is Liverpool fans to make their decision on, and some of them will back Salah. But I must admit, I think that's a little bit player FC, because he's in the wrong. You learn a lot from people from the outside. No player should go rogue at the end of a game, get the press together, and slag the club off. That's your club. You might not like your owners, you might not like your manager, but you can't choose a player over the club, and he shouldn't have done that. And you might understand why he's done it, and you might love him as a player, and he might be a legend of your club, and he is. But ultimately, he's decided to stand there in front of the press, the vermin of football. They've got no loyalty to your club. They just want a story. He's gone out there and he's given them a story and damaged your club. It's nothing that can't be resolved, but he's not in the right for doing that. That's not me. You don't have to choose between Slot and Salah. You don't have to choose between your board and Salah. That's between what your club stands for and Salah. He shouldn't have done that. No player should do that. If Bruno Fernandes did that, I'd be fuming with him. If Ronaldo, I was fuming with Ronaldo for the Piers Morgan interview. I thought it was bang out of order. Even though he spoke a lot of sense, I still think it was disrespectful to do that to Manchester United. Not the owners, they're knobheads, but to Manchester United and what it's meant to be about.
No, I completely agree. There's a right and a wrong way of going about these things. This here from Ola, he says people should remember that Carragher is working for the organisation which started the lies about Hillsborough. Where is his loyalty?
I don't think Sky started the lies about Hillsborough, did they?
So yeah, Ola, you're not now. So the original owners of Sky was Rupert Murdoch, who owns the Sun, but they haven't been involved with the ownership of Sky for about 15 or so plus years. So Carragher's not working for them. If he was working for TalkSport, different conversation. TalkSport is owned by the same media company that owns the Sun, which is why there's an Irish football correspondent and presenter whose name now eludes me, who left when Murdoch's company took over TalkSport because he said, as a Liverpool fan, I can't work for them. And I thought that was very, very honourable of him. But no, Sky are no longer owned by Rupert Murdoch's company. So
I think you can say a lot of things about Jamie Carragher. You say a lot of things about Liverpool, and most of us will never understand it unless we're from Liverpool, because they're a very proud city with, you know, very, very big beliefs in certain things. But I'll say this: Jamie Carragher wouldn't be working for an organisation that he felt had anything to do with what happened with Hillsborough.
Yeah, it was Colin Murray who left that. Yeah, absolutely. But no, the Rupert Murdoch's media company used to own Sky, but they haven't for about 15 to 20 years. So that's false. Thanks for the super chat, but it's not real. Carragher was correct. Salah only speaks when he wants something. He comes across very selfish. What a way to help your teammates and fans. Must leave, is what Ginger Bish says here.
With a Man United player in his bio.
Yeah. Look, I think he'll go. I don't think he'll kick a ball for Liverpool again. I think it'll be over, and it'll be.
I don't. They've got to do. But there has to be, like, if he respects his legacy and he respects the fans of Liverpool, they all need to get in a room and do something that's like signing off in a proper way. Because you can't have that. You can't just be that. I'm off to Qatar or the MLS or wherever. There's got to be a resolution, and you know, there's a bit of PR to be done there on all sides, really.
This is a big take that says our players over club makes you a bad fan. Simples. I don't know. I do.
It's the modern world, though.
Yeah, a lot of people pick players over their club. A lot of people.
I don't know whether it makes you a bad fan. I just think it's something that some of us can't relate to. And sometimes we can't relate to something, so we just dismiss it. But it is more and more prevalent now that you can support a player over a club, and some people do. And we shouldn't be dismissive of it. But for those of us who support clubs, we don't understand it, I think.
Yeah, and be a bad fan might not be the right phrase. But I do look at it from the perspective that if the club operated the way a lot of Player FC people work, it's what's best for their favourite player, not what's best for the club. Typically, what they want is what's best for their player. So therefore, you're not putting the club first. If you're not putting the club first, there's a good chance the club fails. And United have done that. He was doing it to lower the price so he can get sold in January and get more money himself. Benching is just an alibi for doing it. Maybe, Harold. Maybe. I think he could get a move anyway. This here from Andy. It's a simple answer. Even if you can't respect your owners, manager, or even teammates, respect the badge of the club, regardless of what club you play for. Yeah, look, I agree. Look, I think a lot of it is also about, again, we all have moments where we do things we regret. I'm just someone that was brought up in a way where you respected you respected your boss, the company you work for, your teachers at school, authority. That's just the way my dad brought me up to be. So I'm not saying I've always done it. I've definitely messed up. I've definitely said things I shouldn't. So I get why Mo has done it, but it doesn't make it right just because you're in an emotional state. At the end of the day, Mo has made a mistake. Viewers, please hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Get yourself subscribing. Over 3,100 people watching, so let's get that done. Before we go on to some Arsenal content, I want to play this. This is also from Scholes and Butt in relation to Kobbie Mainoo. I'd love to get the viewers and Mark's thoughts on this.
He said he's a starter. He's made 9 appearances in the Premier League. Every one of them as a sub.
If I'm looking after Kobbie Mainoo, I'm going, Kobbie, we're getting you out of that football club. Don't need to speak up, we'll sort it out.
It's so
he's
sad.
Got, it's sad.
So
he's got
sad to think of that.
For his football career, he has to leave Man United.
Do you think
he's lost 18 months of development.
Yeah. Does he stay in the Premier League, or does he go? Does he do?
Well, that's a scary thing. I hope he goes abroad. because it's embarrassing if he comes to Chelsea, which they might go and get him, because they are putting together a very good young squad, and they keep buying young players, and they keep buying the right good young players, and you're thinking he could quite easily end up at Chelsea next season.
And do you know what? You'd have to advise him to go.
You'd have to advise him to go.
If he ran me today and said, "Look, I think Chelsea are anything. What do you think?" I'd fucking all day long.
I've known Cobby since he was 7 or 8. If I went for a coffee with Cobby and him, you wouldn't be doing him justice if he said, "No, Cobby, stay at Man United because it's the best club in the world." I'd said that to loads of kids.
Yeah.
If I was sat with him, I'd say, for your own sanity and career, go.
Big words. Yeah. I mean, I spoke about it on the United stand this morning, and some people were like, "Oh, yeah, bit sensationalist." I don't think it is sensationalist when it's Nicky Butt, who has known him since he was 7, because he's worked in the United youth setup and loves Man United. To be saying get out of Man United, I mean, that's somebody who's ridiculously pissed off with the club. I think it's become very evident over the years since he's left there that he doesn't rate the way the club's being run. And, you know, it's obviously a player that he rates, who he knows, and he's telling them to leave. I mean, that's just, to me, that's just another indicator of how badly the club is being run, because these people get what it know. You know, there was a story at the weekend about the current squad don't like doing interviews with the class of 92, and they feel that they're too harsh on them. And I'm like, you know, mate, if you were winning the league and they were having a go at you, I'd agree, but you're shit and they're having a go at you because they've won the league. And these people know more about what Man United is than Sir Jim Radcliffe or Jason Wilcox or Ruben Amorim. And, you know, that's a damning statement to say, you know, I've known him since he was 7. His talent, it's embarrassing what they're doing with his development. And if I saw him, I'd tell him to go. And he's right as well. 18 months of lost development in a project that nobody knows what it is. 18 months ago, he's playing for England in the Euros. For the last 18 months, he's been sat on his arse. And we're all capable of knowing that a player between 19 and 21 have big years, and he's spending it sitting on his arse. You know, he might look back at his career when in 6 or 7 years' time as an okay player and go, if I'd had those 18 months, I could have reached. We might be ruining his career basically. And it is weird because why didn't they let him go in the summer? You know, you can't keep players like that just because you're short in midfield. Like, get another midfielder in. But that's just a symptom of the way United are run. You know, just a badly run football club.
Yeah, I agree. The fact that we kept him when he could have gone in the summer, and then we could have used that money to maybe bring in a better midfielder than we have, who the manager and the club want to play, just for him to not kick a ball. We're lowering his value and we're damaging the player. So it's lose-lose. He hasn't started again. I wanted a midfielder in the summer, but I really felt that I trusted what they were telling us about Mainoo. I thought he'd get game time. The last 3 games, we played 3 games in the space of just over a week. I thought with rotation he'd get minutes. He's had 13 minutes. He's had 13 minutes or so. I'm so shocked he hasn't started one of these games. Well, I'm not shocked now. I'm so frustrated. But he's right. He's such a talented player. His career is being ruined, and I don't want to see him sold. I want to see him play for Man United. But if you're not going to play him and you've got no desire to, sell him for as much as possible and invest that money in a good quality midfielder who improves us that you're going to play. At the very least, do that. Don't just let his value dwindle, let his contract run down. We get no money for him. You ruin it. It is a mess. It is an absolute
But it's different.
mess.
It's different, like if you're Agate, because you've cost £60 million, you're on a good wage, you're in your mid-20s, it's not working out. You're probably working towards a loan move and an exit in the next 18 months. But with someone like Mainoo, as somebody in the live chat just said there, if Bellingham, it was King David, if Bellingham was at Dortmund and he was being benched constantly, what was the bloody point in getting him from Birmingham in the first place? Because they're massively important minutes. And I think there are certain people in the United fan base and outside of it going, well, he's just not good enough. But there's a different responsibility. He's not a 25-year-old. He's 20. So if he's just not good enough, you need to get him out as a club on loan to play so that you increase his value and don't waste his talent. And maybe he's not good enough for Man United, but at least he's out there somewhere and being used. Look at Harry Amas at Sheffield Wednesday. Will he ever be a Man United left back? I don't know. But he's out playing for Sheffield Wednesday, doing really, really well, increasing his value and fulfilling his potential. With Mainoo, it's almost like we've gone, it's perverse in a sense, in a footballing sense, because it's almost like we're relishing the fact that we're destroying him. it's strange. Like we're not. He's not. He should be getting more minutes. So I think Amram's a stubborn guy, and that can be really good. Mourinho was stubborn. Sir Alex was stubborn. But it feels to me like the treatment of Mainoo, if nobody had ever mentioned Mainoo, I feel he might have got more minutes. It's almost like because he gets mentioned, he doesn't use him. And it's detrimental to Mainoo's career. And I think that's why Nicky is so angry about it.
I think similarly when it comes to changing the shape, I think there's almost this part of Amorim now that where he thinks if I change shape even mid-game, like against Everton, I'm probably going to get called out more for doing it than not. And I think he's wrong. I think he'd actually get praise. On the Mainoo thing, if we were to loan him out or sell him in January, would you be happy for the club to then go and get Baleba?
I don't rate Baleba. I think he's a player that I was really excited about in the summer, but the red flags are he's shit at the moment. And people will say, we played well against Villa. Mate, maybe he did play well against Villa, but we've had 15 Premier League games. He's been dropped for some of them. He normally gets subbed after an hour. The play we went for in the summer was based on a good season where he looked like he might be the next, big Brighton export. He didn't get the move he wanted. He's playing crap and he's been doing it for months. Is he a one-season wonder or has he got a bad attitude? Well, either way, that terrifies me because he's either a one-season wonder and he's been figured out or he's down tools because he didn't get a move. So he's either got a bad attitude or he's a one-season wonder. That, to me, is a big red flag. And the fact that United are going, we still want him because the data says different. Wow. How many times are we going to make these mistakes? Oh, he's talented. Jadon Sancho was talented. So it worries me. If he had a really good end to the season, then I'd probably go, okay, let's do it. But I don't think you can dismiss 6 months of poor performances when he's been associated with a move to Manchester United. It's a red flag of mentality, really.
I understand that train of thought. I am a little concerned as well. Equally, what I saw last season was just brilliant. And it's so what we need. And I've always been an advocate for the element of sometimes when a club rejects a player leaving, I've always said you've got to be careful because if their head gets turned, sometimes it's hard for them to refocus. And some will say it's a mentality issue and they don't want that at their football club, which is fair. And I do understand it. I personally still think there's a really good player in there. So I like him. At the same time...
you know what, Terry? I don't disagree with you, but the third point I just remembered is he's definitely a prospect. And we can't afford to buy more prospects. Like he's definitely going to come to United and need... I can imagine Amorim going, he's a great prospect. He's going to need a bit of time. He's going to have to get used to things, that and the other. And that to me is a separate thing, but that we can't afford any more prospects. I mean, look at what's happening with Yoro. Look at what's happening with Dorgu. Look at what's happening with Sesko. We're not the club for prospects either. So yeah, that worries me as well. I'd rather go for somebody that's going to come straight into the team, that's playing well week in, week out. And, there's no prospects as well.
No, I understand that. And also, you've got to look at things in terms of emergence because the way Elliot Anderson has grown in the last 12 months, I'd love to sign him. I've always liked what Wharton does. He reminds me of Michael Carrick. So there are a number of players out there. I just look at the Mainoo situation and think we have got to let him go and play football. I feel that he deserves it. I feel that he's done nothing wrong. He's been nothing but professional during this really hard period. Please let him play football. But if you're going to do that, you've got to go out and buy someone. And it's clear. I thought maybe Mainoo was being protected last season when we were bad. They helped building him up physically. He did a really big summer training regime in post-season to get ready for this campaign. Thought, maybe there's a longer-term plan. It is as clear as a nose on the end of my face that Amorim is never going to start picking this guy. So we have to move on. There's no point dragging this on to the summer. Start getting it resolved now. Whether it's a Stiller, it'll mention, I keep saying Ben Stiller, whether it's Stiller coming in, whether it's Wharton, I think we've got to do something in that realm.
What I would do, though, Ed, I think it's so logical. And I actually think Brighton get a good deal. Is like, why can't you go to Brighton in January and say, we'll give you Mainoo on loan, you give us Baleba on loan. You're not using him anyway. You're subbing him off after an hour. We're not using Mainoo. Why don't we just do a straight loan for 4 months and, get something in writing about potential, figures. I think Brighton potentially get a better deal. you know, and we get to look at Baleba. I mean, it will never happen, but I wouldn't mind that. You know, try before you buy would be quite a novel concept for United. But
no, I don't disagree. I think that'd be a good thing to do. Jose once said, "I can coach anything, but I can't coach character. Buying talent isn't just enough now, especially the situation you are in." That's true, but he was also someone that could handle players that other people couldn't. So, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? Sorry, where's that comment? I'll just move that. Oh, sorry, I'll just unstart a comment. Amorim will rather lose without Mainoo than win with him, just out of stubbornness. We saw this with Ten Hag and Ahmad. It's a good point. That is a good point, to be fair. Saying Baleba has a bad attitude is premature. At his age, moving to Manchester United for him could and most likely be life-changing for himself and his family. Yeah, I mean, it could be, but you've still got to look at, you know, why the performance has suddenly fallen off. That has to be looked at, and we should do due diligence on it. That should absolutely happen, because he could be a Caicedo. He could be an Yves Bissouma. Both those players are heavily rated at Brighton. Look at the direction of Caicedo's career. Look at the direction of Bissouma's. You know, we need to make sure we're not buying Bissouma and we're buying Caicedo. I think it's really important to do that. Glenn here says that the answer is to tell him to go to another club he would be on the bench for. What do you mean for Mainoo? Maybe. It feels. Oh, you mean what Nicky Butt saying? Going to check this. I think Mainoo gets into the Chelsea team. I think Mainoo's good enough. I feel
he get more chance, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Reece James, Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, it would be difficult, but the way Maresca operates, we've seen what he's done with Gittins and Esteban and 4 wingers. He finds minutes for them all the time. He'd find the problem many United fans have is that it's criminal the amount of minutes he gets given. And at Chelsea, he would get more minutes. He might not start, but he'd still be picking up an hour a week across 2 games. You know,
100%. News Corporation were the owners of Sky when Jamie joined them back in 2012-13. He also writes for a Tory rag.
I think you're stretching, mate. I think you're really stretching. Like, we're talking about Carragher against Salah, and you're trying to bring Hillsborough into it. And I don't think any Liverpool fan is really going to be looking at Carragher as an enemy of the football club and associating with somebody that doesn't respect Hillsborough. I just think that I sort of came in before and tried to give you a bit of a hint to sort of move away from it. And you're still trying to push on something that I don't think you're going to get a lot of backing for, because Hillsborough is massively serious to Liverpool fans, and Jamie Carragher is a massive part of that football club. And there's just no way that you can use that in your argument that what we're talking about in relation to Salah. That's respectfully, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thank you, Garth, for your super chat. You didn't say anything, but thank you very much for doing it. On Arsenal, this is a clip from Laura on them being bottlers. Let's have a look.
Lots to get through this week. Does anyone want to start? They lost to Villa this weekend. Oh, thank God. Very nice. Nice and simple, straight to the point. And Unai is just head and shoulders above Arteta as a coach. And that might be going a bit far. Well, they've bottled a 9-point lead. Okay, was the lead ever 9 points though? They've also bottled a 15-point lead. Okay, but that is something that we can quite easily debunk. So from me this week, Gyökeres is fat. Wow, okay. And what are we basing that on? A highly zoomed in picture taken from behind him. And we're absolutely sure those are not his obliques. His what? His obliques. That doesn't matter. Anyway, well, North London forever is... No, we need new ideas. We've done that to death. So I'm going to say that they've spent all season talking about squad depth, and now they're crying about injuries. I mean, they can both be true. They've bottled the league 3 times, and they're obviously going to bottle it again. Nice. I don't want to nitpick, but are we saying they bottled it last year, or were they perhaps just not good enough? Well, they didn't win it, did they? So they bottled it. Really? It's just easier to say that. Short and simple. Also, they've been celebrating like they've won the league already. Like, there's such a long way to go. Okay, that's fair. And they've bottled it already. It's over. But there's such a long way to go, right? I said it's over. Okay. See you next week.
It seems to be like that a little bit with Arsenal. They win a game and it's don't celebrate. It's not over yet. There's a long way to go. They lose a game and it's over. They're bottling it. There is a lot of truth to that when it comes to social media. Laura, I think, obviously captures this stuff fantastically well. What was your view of Arsenal over the course of the weekend? And do you think there are signs, because they haven't won in the last 3 away games, do you think there are signs of them crumbling?
I think that they looked tired against Villa. I actually had them to go and win that game, and it was very obvious that they were probably not going to win the game after half an hour. I think a lot of teams seem to struggle with the 3 Premier League games in a week, which is strange because they're used to Champions League football, but the intensity of Europe is not the same as the Premier League. And I think a lot of teams did look tired, which is why some teams did a lot of rotation. And Villa are a good team, and it was a last-minute goal. I think context is key. There's a lot of people that are like running away with the fact that, you know, the Premier League is so contested this year, it's so tight. And yet I literally put a screenshot up this morning. You've got exactly the same gap between 5th place and 10th as last year, 2 points. So the Premier League this year is no different to last year in the sense that it's competitive, it's compact. And I think with Arsenal, it's a 38-game season. And the biggest barrier they're going to have is if somebody's capable of winning that league, can they outdo them? And mentally, are they capable of winning a league? And that won't matter, regardless of a draw at Stamford Bridge or a loss at Villa. You know, they're swallowable. They're swallowable, whatever the word is. For any team that wins the league, you're going to lose games and you're going to draw games. So bottling at this stage is laughable. I still think they're favourites. They have had a lot of injuries, and I don't know whether there's a correlation between training or style of play or something, because it's strange. But they've got 4 very winnable games coming up now. I mean, they've got Wolves on Saturday night. So
that's a win.
They've just got to... They can't turn a wobble into a fall-off. And like I say, losing to Villa away is disappointing, but there's context. The Chelsea game as well. If they win the next 4 games... But City look good. That's the problem. If City get going, then Arsenal have got no divine right to win the league. You know, if City go and post 95 points and win the league, then it doesn't matter how many squad players they've bought. That's a tough season to win it. But I still think Arsenal are favourites at the moment. But obviously, the wobble, I think it's a bit overstated at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think they've really dropped points to anyone this season that it's embarrassing to. Some will say Sunderland newly promoted, but Sunderland have been really good. They've dropped points to City, who many people that slag Arsenal off say are the favourites. They lost to Liverpool at Anfield, which at that stage of the season wasn't embarrassing. They've dropped points to Chelsea, who are a good team, and Villa, who have beaten the team that everyone thinks is going to pip City to the Arsenal to the title City. So they've dropped points, but where I would worry as an Arsenal fan is if you drop points against Wolves this weekend, if you go away to Everton and lose, when you're playing Brighton at home, you draw. That's when you start looking at it and going, well, that's not what title winners do. Title winners typically will beat those teams irrespective of what's going on. But they were always going to drop points, because if we actually look at the top 12, 13 teams in the league this season, none of those away games are easy. Right down to sort of Bournemouth, who are around 13th in the league, right up to Arsenal. There is none of those home games, those away games you look at and go, that's a gimme. They are all dangerous. They can all hurt you. They can all beat you. There is a great competitiveness in that relation into the Premier League, which is why, for instance, I think this weekend, Palace takes some kind of point off Arsenal, off of City, and I think Arsenal beat Wolves. So I think we'll end up at a point where they're back to being 4 to 5 points clear again the end of this weekend. And there's a lot of just, as Laura points out in her clip, it's 1 week they're running away with it, the next week they're going to bottle it. And I just think that kind of conversation is tiresome. We can just review the game in isolation and go, what happened in this game, and draw a line under it, and then talk about the next game. I feel like maybe part of content creation now is getting tiring, because so many conversations always end up leading into, so have you changed your overarching opinion yet? Well, no, I don't change my opinion every week. You know, it takes a body of work to do that. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting one. On Arsenal, though, there is VAR supposedly in PGMO. They are targeting them and trying to hurt their players. Take a look at this.
They're waiting for one of our players to get seriously injured. They want, I'm going to say it myself. Yeah. I'm saying it. They want, by the way they come, they want one of our players to be seriously injured. If you see the challenge on Mikel from behind, it wasn't even given as a foul. Yeah. Mikel is lucky, and Mikel M is lucky to still be walking. And the same thing happened against Chelsea. The disgraceful, disgusting tackle by Caicedo. He wasn't going to get a yellow card until the referee was sent to VAR. I remember Caicedo's the same disgrace that took out Gabriel M1, and he was injured for a lot of the season. And the elbow by Daniel Ballard that he got away with, and he wasn't given as a foul. So what's happening?
the challenges that Aston Villa were allowed to do. Is the ref facilitated them. So you know what I mean. So they want our play. Look at the fouls on Bukayo. How many? No, sorry.
I hear what you're saying.
No, sorry. No, let me finish. Sorry. Look how many fouls they were on us. Villa should have got at least a yellow card for every player, including Emiliano, because he's probably still wasting time now. The thing is, how did we get free and they got none? John McGinn kicked the ball away, didn't get a yellow card. Bukayo complained after winning the ball and he got a yellow card. How many times was he kicked down? Like I said before, and I'll say it again, let them prove me wrong. PJ Morrow, I'll call them one out. Howard Webb, the referees union, the Premier League, UEFA, FIFA is different. The Premier League, they're waiting for one of our players to get seriously injured. They want, I'm going to say it myself, I'm saying it, they want, by the way they come, they want one of our players to be seriously injured.
Imagine that, Howard Webb sat there with the Premier League going, how do we get an Arsenal player like out for the season? Look, that's bottling. That's bottling behaviour. I'm not seeing that from many Arsenal fans. Look, I watched that game. We all know refereeing's up and down in the Premier League, but I didn't see anything in the game that was bad. Caicedo got sent off for the Mainoo tackle, which was bad. I'm not seeing any. We all go looking for it, but I'm not seeing anything special against Arsenal, if that's the question. And
no,
I think Arsenal ultimately, as I said, they're good enough to win this league. Mentally, they've got to prove they're good enough to win this league. And I want a title race, and I think at the moment, we have got one. But Man City, as you say, Man City are not the Man City of the past. I think some people are trying to turn Man City into this Man City team that won the league 2 years ago. They're not that team anymore. Like, Rodri's not even fit at the moment, and there's a lot of new players there. So, that's the impressive thing about City. I think they're playing a different style of football, which is quite watchable. And they've got some new players. He's building a new team. So, Arsenal is still in a strong position. They've got more experience, really.
No, I agree. I think the most shocking thing about this video with Ty is that he's not wearing any Arsenal merch. That's the maddest bit. He's normally head to toe, inside and out, wearing Arsenal merch. And it's kind of interesting to see him not wearing Arsenal clobber. Unless that is, and I don't realise it. But
it might be Boohoo Man, because it's got Boohoo Man.
They're one of yours, aren't they? One of your sponsors, Boohoo.
Yeah. So he might be wearing a bit of Boohoo Man.
And when we went out the other week, you weren't wearing Boohoo.
Yeah. No.
Just on the night out. I get it. Look, I want to thank everyone who's tuned into the show today. Please make sure you hit the like button if you haven't done so already, and subscribe. Mark, let everyone know when you're back.
I got the VAR this week. I look forward to him.
He hasn't done one for a couple of weeks. I did look. It's not been
a bad weekend for VAR, then, has it? That's what it is.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Otherwise, I did go and look on Morgan's page today, but nothing. We had one where he dressed up as a woman talking about something else. There's nothing to do with football. So, Mark, when are you gonna be live later today?
2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
Excuse me. Oh my God.
Terry's going to bed.
Yeah, I'm going back to bed, but I'm back live around 3:30 today for Straight Facts. Then, of course, Champions League reactions tonight. I want to thank everybody that's tuned in. Until next time, everybody, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you soon. Peace.